Hello, welcome to another episode of Field of Screams podcast. Today we'll be talking about Halloween Ends. This movie is a conclusion to David Gordon Green's trilogy. And man, oh man, it is a decision all in itself. Let's start from the beginning. So this film actually recall the whole marketing aspect for this movie. Not because I was following it so closely, my strategy going in is, I followed Halloween 18 relatively closely. I went and watched it in theater, and I was a little bit meh at the time. So then when Halloween Kills came out, I didn't watch any trailers. I went to check it out. I loved it. I was back on the trilogy. I was back on the bandwagon. So when Halloween Ends was going on, I was like, well, I'm going to try to distance myself a little bit. Even though I tried to distance myself, you still kind of hear the rumors left and right. There were rumors during this filming that there was going to be plot devices about COVID. There were rumors that Michael Myers was going to die from COVID. And when I heard that, I was like, ooh, I really hope they don't go that route. That makes me nervous. But part of me, I was kind of like, if I was a director of a film, maybe I would put out these false rumors to kind of lower people's expectations, because let's face it, expectations can defeat a movie itself sometimes. I've gone back and watched 2018. I like it now. So maybe that was just them trying to tamper the expectations for this conclusion. Eventually, I kept hearing stuff, and I eventually went to a subreddit on Reddit that is for the franchise Halloween. I just popped my head in there. And there was someone that was kind of talking about the movie, and they mentioned someone named Corey. And I kind of sat there, and I'm like, Corey, who's Corey? And I could not recall it at all. I tried to think back to 2018, Halloween Kills. I could not remember a Corey. So I remember posing a question. I was like, hey, I'm not being sarcastic here. I see everyone mentioning a Corey character. Who's Corey? And then they were just like, oh, it's a character they're bringing in for this movie. I guess he's going to be like a main character for this. And I kind of sat there and I was like, oh, kind of like a resident in Haddonfield, like Big John, Little John, but maybe just a little more screen time. And they're like, no, we think he's going to be the main character. That's what the rumors are. And I was kind of like, oh, crap, that does not sound good. We have Laurie and we have Allison. Why are we bringing in a Corey? I don't know. Finally, the movie came out, and I noticed reviews started dropping right away, and the reviews were not great for this film. So I told my friend, I said, hey, listen, we should go see this film before stuff starts getting spoiled. I don't want the big fight between Laurie and Michael to get spoiled. What's going to happen if they fall off the big red radio tower. I don't want anything spoiled, because, once you poke your head in the subreddit, if you go on Reddit, they're like, hey, since you've been here, check out this post. And, stuff can get spoiled really, really easily now that we have social media. So I went and saw it. I was like, all right, let's go check it out so we don't get spoiled here. And that's what we did. Now, this movie, it opens up with, Corey being the babysitter. He's babysitting a kid. The parents, they go out for the night. The way the mom was talking to the boy, I almost kind of suspected she might have a thing for the boy. I was like, oh, what's going on here? But she leaves. And at first, Corey and the kid, they're doing all right. They're talking about different things, but then this kid turns a complete 180, and he starts just being the biggest little a-hole you could possibly be. And he locks Corey in that closet. Corey freaks out because the kid's like, Michael Myers is coming. And there's a brief moment where you think, Michael Myers might actually appear. This is the third movie in this trilogy. This could happen. But it doesn't. Corey kicks open the door, knocks the kid off the balcony. The kid, bounces off the floor. And, Corey's holding that knife, and the parents walk in, start screaming, and then we get that title card. And I was like, oh, okay, that was a little different. Okay. And the movie opens up, and we get a brief look at Corey's life in general. It just kind of starts off. He's always drinking chocolate milk. He's always riding a bicycle. He's a typical good kid. But we kind of see, Haddonfield has kind of made him this monster. No one really wants to talk to Corey. No one except Corey's mom, and Corey's mom's weird. Corey's stepdad's okay. The dude just wants to eat spaghetti, and he seems totally chill. But I mean, his mom's the type of lady, like, she gets extremely close, like, I think she kissed him on the lips once, really weird stuff. And I was like, oh, like, I don't know really where this is going. And then we got old Lori here. She's going out to the supermarket, and herself is getting blamed by Haddonfield. So we have the two parallels of these two characters. And I feel like the people in Haddonfield really go out of their way to belittle Lori, make her feel bad when she's just trying to go shopping. And even when she's shopping, I'll get to another character here in a minute. But, we got these two parallel characters. Corey himself, he goes to a gas station. He's bullied by a bunch of band bullies, which was quite the choice. I feel like usually movies use the typical football bullies, but they changed it up a bit to band bullies. Not really sure why. I don't know, like, it's almost kind of funny. Like, it's not funny. I mean, I'm sure there's bullies that exist in the band, but it is just, it's a weird choice to have. But they want Corey to go buy them alcohol. Corey's like, no, I just want to buy my chocolate milk. Of course they bully Corey. They like shove him. He breaks his glass chocolate milk bottle, cuts up his hand. Lori sees this going on. She probably sees a little bit of herself in him. She walks over, goes off on the band bullies. And then, she tells Corey, like, hey, let's go get your hand checked out. And, Corey, he goes, and of course, Allison works at this doctor's office, and the doctor, while he's healing up Corey, he's kind of just down talking to Allison. And man, when Allison and Corey, like, meet eyes, like, you can tell they're attracted. It's the romance eyes that's usually shown in movies. And you're like, oh, so this is where Corey's going to tie in. He's going to be Allison's boyfriend. We see little changes here and there. Corey finally gets himself a motorcycle. Allison wants to ride it with Corey. They're totally hitting it off. They even go out one night to a little dance party at a bar. I think that's where it is. Everyone's dressed up. I mean, this kind of looks like an MTV music video. Corey's dressed up as a scarecrow. I think that's a little symbolism for, him kind of scaring everyone in town. And, of course, Allison's dressed as a cat. But, yeah, the music starts playing. Corey's having a good time. He's rolling around on the dirty dance floor. Allison's dancing with him. It looks really fun. And about this point, like, there's some goofy moments. But I remember, like, turning to my friend. I kind of looked at the time. We're about 20 to 30 minutes in. And I'm like, this isn't really that bad. Like, I think the bad reviews were being a little dramatic here. Like, I think we're in for a good movie. When Corey decides to quit rolling on the dance floor, he finally looks at Allison. He's like, hey, hold on one second. I'm going to go get a drink. And when he goes to get a drink, he sees the mom of the kid he accidentally murdered. She goes off on him. She's never going to forgive the guy. He accidentally killed her son. Like, I can get it a little bit. She's a little over the top. She could have just left Corey alone, not talked to him, went somewhere else. But no, like, she angers all of her anger at him. She's probably drunk. But after she goes off on him, like, Corey kind of snaps at Allison, and he's like, where were you? And Allison was like, what the heck? Like, you told me you'd be back in 2 seconds. What do you mean? And he, like, walks out on her, and it's just kind of like, oh, like, this took a weird, quick turn. And, while Corey's walking out, he gets beat up by the band bullies once again. They, like, cast him over the bridge, and when they cast him over the bridge, like, he sees, like, a hobo. The homeless guy, he starts talking. You start getting, like, Pennywise vibes. He's, like, by the sewer, and he's like, oh, like, no one ever comes out of there. And, like, Corey goes into there, and this is, like, where we see Michael. Michael's, like, hidden in the sewer, which is, the whole point of Halloween 18 and Halloween Kills. They're like, oh, Michael only wants to go home. Well, they knock down his home. So, once again, like, their decision to change up the brother-sister dynamic, and they're like, no, this is different. Like, Michael just wants to go to his childhood house. But his childhood house does not exist for the third film. So, Michael just kind of chills in the sewer now. which is weird. The movie keeps taking these like weird turns though, because eventually Corey kills someone down in this sewer. And when he does, like, it makes Michael stronger, which I think they kind of established that in Halloween Kills. Like, they're like, oh, the evil only gets stronger with, like, evil deeds or something like that. That's not a very good quote from the movie. But kind of the scene to where Michael and Corey, like, Corey gets a guy in there, and he's like, show me how you do it. And Michael just simply takes a knife and stabs him. Like, it's the simplest thing ever. It's like, what'd you expect? Like a little pregame ritual, like Michael to do a little chant or something. But yeah, like, whenever Michael stabs him, he like shakes, and it's like almost homoerotic. And it's like, well, what is going on here? Like, this is so far out from the usual Michael stuff that we know. And, Michael's like super weak. And, the last time we see him, he took on half the town of Haddonfield and killed them all. Which is just kind of a crazy transition. Now, eventually, Corey and Michael, they start teaming up. There's one kill where, the doctor that was rude to Allison, his assistant, which he gave a promotion over Allison. Corey and Michael pay them a visit. And there's actually kind of a cool scene. There's one where, like, the doctor goes out by the pool. The lady that he's friends with, like, that, they're sexually involved. The light kind of goes out, and then like when it turns back on, like Corey's wearing like a scarecrow mask, and he's like stabbing the person that they're with. That was a really good scene. It was a nice setup. It was a kill by Corey. The band bullies, they bite the dust via Corey. There's some cool kills in there. One of them involves a blowtorch to the mouth. I like the way that looked. Again, done by Corey. Another good kill is when the DJ was killed in a studio. They slam his head on the desk so hard, like his like jaw falls off, and then he like cuts off his tongue. That was pretty gnarly all in itself. So I mean, like, there are some kills here. I would say overall the kill still felt a little. It felt a little less than Halloween Kills. I mean, there's still gore there. But it doesn't quite hold up to Halloween Kills, in my opinion. But here's one of the first problems that I have with this film. And it was immediately why I was kind of like, oh, I see why it's getting bad reviews now. Again, in this review, I know I've kind of started with the beginning, and now it kind of seems like I'm jumping. But to me, like, that's kind of how this film feels. The whole beginning, setting up Corey, giving him his background, him meeting Allison, them kind of hitting it off. They hit it off pretty quick. But, it was up to that point, I was kind of like, I'm enjoying this film. But, as soon as, like, Corey runs into Michael Myers, and there's, like, a transfer of power with every kill, everything started to feel just really rushed and really crazy. Like, what are we doing here? They took a gigantic story that really had nothing to do with the previous two movies, and they tried to shove it all in this big movie, and then they still wanted to have like an epic conclusion with Jamie Lee Curtis and Allison, which I will say, the conclusion fight, like they did a trailer showing about half of the fight. I tried to hold out via trailers, but I ended up catching it. But when I caught it, I was like, ooh, this sounds fun. Like the showdown between Jamie Lee and Michael in Halloween 18, that was a fun showdown. So this one called Halloween Ends, there's got to be crazy buildup. And there's really not. It's pretty anticlimactic. I would say Corey's probably the biggest villain in this movie. He has a lot of the good kills. Which is just crazy. Imagine going to see a new Batman movie, and instead most of the movie revolves around Alfred making tea. Like this is kind of almost what it feels like. I mean, granted, Corey's still killing people, but man, like there's a whole lot they tried to do with Corey. And they revolved this whole movie around him, and like by the end of it, whenever Michael kills him off, it's kind of like, oh, like that's how he meets his end. Oh, okay. And like they strap down Michael, him and Laurie kind of have a face off, and they slit his wrist like it's a it's just a very anticlimactic kill. But then they get the whole town of Haddonfield and they like parade them around, and then they throw them into like a grinder, and Halloween ends. There we go. By the time this whole movie was over and done with, like, I just had so many questions. Like, the one character I was about to bring up earlier, Hawkins. We spent the past two movies, Halloween 18, Hawkins goes out. He tries to find Michael. He gets brutally attacked, stabbed several times, got ran over. He had to go to the hospital. We get his background via flashbacks and Halloween Kills. Like, he's showing, why he wants to find Michael, why he wants this big showdown. And, in the build-up of those two movies, if there was a showdown between Hawkins and Michael, I would have been down for it, because they showed us enough. But Hawkins, like, all he does is, like, when he sees Laurie in the supermarket, he's like, oh, you should come see the cherry blossoms. Like, literally, that is the conclusion to this character that we got all this build-up for, is he's the cherry blossoms man. Like, what are we doing? In Halloween 18, we get this big family dynamic between Laurie and Karen and Allison, and, like, the dinner scene. Lots of emotion. Between the three of them, they were fantastic. Halloween Kills comes out. They take a little bit of a back seat, but now we involve lots of citizens of Haddonfield. And it's kind of like, you know what? They can kind of take a back seat for a moment, because we're going to wrap this up next movie. Well, we don't. Like, this movie revolves around Corey, and Allison was, like, pretty heavy in the beginning of the film, but then it seems like she just kind of disappears, and she just follows Corey's every word. Corey's like, hey, let's go for a date. And then he's like, let's burn this place down randomly. And she's like, yeah. It's like, what? Like, we're almost pulling a Rob Zombie here. Like, Allison was attacked. Her mom was murdered by a serial killer. I don't know why she would feel the need to burn the entire town down. I honestly think one of the most disappointing things for me is, like, Halloween 18's, whenever I watch it, like, I just think they're setting up Allison to be the next final girl. They easily could have killed Laurie in Halloween 18, and it would have flowed pretty well. She was in a hospital bed for most of the time in Kills. Even if they would have killed her in Kills, and had her and Karen go. But no matter what, even the direction they went, they still could have made her, like, the main girl. And I guess you could say she's kind of the main girl. But, I mean, again, she just follows instructions via Corey. And that's all her character does. She does get, like, the final kill with Michael. She helps Laurie out. But it's just kind of like, come on. Like, by the time this movie, like, rolls out, like, Allison is, like, the perfect age to be the final girl. Like, she's kind of, like, all grown up by the time this movie came out after COVID and all that stuff. Like, it would have been awesome. Like, she could have been in a couple more if you wanted to do that. Instead, we just get this film about Corey, which if they want to do a Corey story, have Corey's arc somewhere in it. Introduce him in, like, Halloween Kills, or maybe even Halloween 18. Like, just have him, like, be like a random paper boy or something that knows Allison, but he's kind of a nerd and he's shy. And then Halloween Kills, whenever that stuff's happening, he could have been with the group for some reason. You could have figured it out. But he could have been there the whole way through, and we could have introduced the weird mom and, the band bullies, and we could have gave them an arc. We gave an arc to, like, 1,000 people in Halloween Kills. You're telling me we couldn't find room for Corey? Of course, Barker doesn't show up till, like, the last minute of the film, and he's just like, all right, I guess we're doing this. Like, I'll go down on the grinder too. We never use this dude at all in the trilogy. I'm complaining a lot here, but I mean, I'm just going to throw in something else that I felt like this movie was pretty good with, or this trilogy was pretty good with, until we came to this movie. But, like, the editing was also, like, just kind of weird. When Corey kills the first guy in the sewer, when, like, Michael does the whole thing, stabs him and shakes around a bunch, does the truffle shuffle. We see Corey immediately with Allison, and he's taken Allison to that house where he accidentally killed the kid. And he looks at her, and this is, like, after he snapped on her and stuff, and you'd think he'd be trying to mend the relationship. But he just kind of looks at her, and he's like, I killed someone. And at that moment, you're like, does he mean the kid? Or does he mean the guy in the sewer? I'm guessing he means the kid. Just very weird editing choice. There's the other thing when Michael and Corey decide to team up like Batman and Robin. It cuts immediately to Corey on the motorcycle. You see hands on his waist. For a second, you think it's Michael Myers, and it's kind of funny. But then it's like Allison, and it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we making the choices that we're making? And again, the whole movie itself. Like, it's hard to just realistically believe that Corey and Allison fall in love. They're in love so much that they will listen to each other no matter what. I mean, Corey's down so bad that he tells Laurie that if I can't have her, no one else will. We go from the love story to turbulence in Corey's life, to him meeting Michael Myers, to him finding out Michael Myers gets stronger when he can kill people. So him and Michael Myers then team up. They go around killing people. Corey struggles with the relationship and they go back and forth. Laurie sees that Corey's flawed, calls him out. Which, by the way, weird moment for Laurie. I mean, she set them two up, and then immediately when she sees him, like, have a look in his eye, she's like, you stay away from my granddaughter. And he's like, dude, you set us up. Like, I don't blame Corey for that moment. And then we have, like, Michael Myers rising up, and we have the whole climax of them fighting. It's just way too much to put into one movie. And you could say, like, they're being ambitious and they want to do something different. Well, don't do something different when you're in the final act of a trilogy. Imagine watching Lord of the Rings and you watch the first two films, but then the third film they involve a brand new character who wants to do something completely different. And then by the end they're like, oh yeah, and Frodo wants to throw a ring into the volcano. We might as well put that in the last 20 minutes. Like, no, you're building up to something. That's the whole point of a trilogy. Like, you map it out, you build it up, and the end, the climax, should be the final confrontation that leaves a satisfying moment, to where you enjoy the trilogy. This movie doesn't do it. It tries to be too different. It tries to usher in a brand new character. And it just feels weird, disjointed. There's so many questions about Halloween Kills that don't get answered here. It's weird. Speaking of weird, I don't really want to get into it all that much, but Corey throwing around Michael in the sewer and stealing his mask like a bully, taking candy away from a child. That's just kind of embarrassing for the franchise. They know that people get mad about Busta Rhymes talking bad about Michael Myers and later Kung Fu kicking him. At least that's like kind of funny. It was disrespectful to the character. But man, what an embarrassing moment for Michael Myers. I don't know why David Gordon Green thought that was a great idea, but we have that now. So, yeah. Alright, I feel like I'm just ranting here, so I'll kind of settle down. Now, one thing I want to say, this movie does have its fans. There are people that enjoy it, and I've said again and again, David Gordon Green, regardless of the writing and the stuff that happened, the dude can shoot a good movie. He can, it's clean. I don't agree with the editing of this film. I don't agree with the angle they went. Honestly, I think they just got a little too bored during COVID, and they maybe just overthought it, and they were just trying to be super artistic, and, stuff happens. That's kind of where I think that happened. But, if you like this movie, that's perfectly fine. Don't take my ramblings and take it to heart. Because I get it. Like, I'm a guy who tries to stand up for Halloween 5. Halloween 5 gets crapped on so much, and I honestly, I really like Halloween 5. And it's actually kind of funny, because there was someone I was talking to once, like, they were trying to defend Halloween Ends, and it was, like, in a group of people, and, people were crapping on it. He's like, guys, it's not that bad, and he's, like, trying to talk it through, and, not a lot of people are listening, and I looked at him, and I was like, dude, man, like, I get it. And I was like, I like Halloween 5, and that gets crapped on a lot. Like, I respect your decision for liking Halloween Ends. And then after I say that, he's like, oh, Halloween 5 blows, dude. And then he starts, like, talking crap about Halloween 5, and in my mind, I'm like, you know what? Screw you and Halloween Ends. Whatever. Regardless, if you enjoy this film, kudos to you. Because we need people liking every horror movie possible. You know, the more success horror movies get, the more they get made. So I mean, like, despite me not liking it, if you enjoy it, I'm happy, because if a brand new movie can come out, there's nothing like liking a movie that's kind of against the par of what everyone else thinks, you know. And I mean, there's times I've been like that. Like there's certain movies I refer to them as my movies. You know, Halloween 5 I can refer to as my movie, because not a lot of people will stand up for it like I do. So if you like this movie, go ahead and comment down below and tell me what you liked about the movie, because I do like hearing different perspectives. Like I got listeners that follow to this podcast all the time. You know, they tell me what they like, what they dislike, if they agree with me, if they don't. So, you know, if you disagree with me wholeheartedly, you know, feel free to tell me. You know, don't take it personal. Don't be like, hey, idiot, you don't understand Halloween Ends. Like, you know, that's never a nice way to start it. But, you know, tell me what you like about it. You know, if you agree with me, you can tell me that too. It's not always healthy to live in an echo chamber, but sometimes it's fun. So, yeah, tell me what you think about this movie. You know, if you give this episode a like, you know, that helps out the channel. I say that about every time at the end of an episode, but it really does. So if you give this video a like, you know, if you haven't subscribed and you want to hear more about Halloween and more about different scary movies, you know, subscribe. I'm going to be ranking these movies very soon. So hit that subscribe button, like button, and we should have a Halloween ranking episode coming pretty soon. If you're still listening, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, guys.